The trouble with choosing a sermon title like Everything is Connected is that there's an overwhelming number of illustrations and stories that I could include to support this point. I mean, I could tell you about hedgehogs with their 5,000 to 7,000 quills and their 17 different species, none of which are native to North America. And I could tell you that a group of hedgehogs is called an array. Or I could tell you about nanobots, which aren't quite as grim as Damien seems to think they are. I can say that in the field of molecular robotics, they are programmed DNA strands that have the capacity to move around your body and find cancer cells. So they could actually be really helpful. And even though they sound like they are the stuff of movies or from future life on Mars, they are actually being developed as we speak. And there are lots of other amazing and seemingly incomprehensible things that are out there, things that exist because life is complex and miraculous and a gift. And, well, everything, all those things are connected. And the children's book that I just read is really a message for everybody, no matter how old you are. So I'll take that message along with some of our readings from the 10th chapter of Matthew's Gospel that Lainey shared with you, and reflect about what it is that we know, what it is that we don't know, and that everything is connected. My choices and yours, the things we decide to explore and support, the relationships we make or don't make, they all have a profound impact on the world. If everything is connected, then the followers of Jesus, as children of God, we are called to explore and support and mend and heal all those connections that stretch from us out to everything else. And when we see tears or injury to the web of life that we live in, I think we're obligated morally, ethically, and spiritually to engage, to act as Jesus did, to be explorers, supporters, menders, and healers. We don't have to look far to find ruptures in this web of connection. There are all sorts of examples of what carelessness or ignorance can do to other living creatures, to the natural wonders in the world, or to fellow human beings when we ignore the connections between us all. To find them, we only need to look for the blobfish. I wonder if you were listening to that part of the story when I read it. I wonder if you remember the part about the blobfish. Blobfish, you say? Surely not that. They don't look like me, talk like me, or act like me, and they probably stink. But as the book says, you see, we're connected. We all play a part in life. We're the same. We're all blobfish at heart. And maybe like me, as you listened to that story the first time, you thought about Dr. Seuss. It sounds like a little bit like a Dr. Seuss rhyme from one of the clever and clear messages that he offered to people of all ages. And maybe also, like me, you know that some of the most powerful and profound messages that you can find these days are in children's books. And I would mention that's part of our appeal of the Food for the Soul Family Dinner Ministry, because we offer messages in the form of children's books that are really for people of any age. And so I ask you, who or what looks like a blobfish to you? Who doesn't look like you, talk like you, or act like you? Is it a Syrian refugee? Is it a Mexican family at the border trying to escape being forcibly recruited by drug lords in their small town? Is your blobfish one of the newly paroled young men down in New Haven, Connecticut, for whom our FaithWorks students are making inspirational clay tiles to help them as they begin to reintegrate into their own families and back into society at large? Maybe your blobfish is a sibling you haven't spoken to for years. Maybe your blobfish is the president of our country or one of those who wish to become president. Maybe your blobfish is your next door neighbor, or a co-worker, or the duck-billed platypus, which is currently imperiled by habitat loss, predation, and feral cats, and now drought and wildfires in Australia. Did you know that the unusual appearance of this egg-laying, duck-billed, beaver-tailed, otter-footed mammal baffled European naturalists when they first encountered it, and that the first scientist to examine a preserved platypus body in 1799 thought it was a fake, made up of a whole bunch of animals put together? But maybe you think blobfish are close enough to a platypus, and that really doesn't have anything to do with you. But you'd be wrong, because you see, while I, like this book, may be intentionally not telling you exactly how things are connected, I can tell you this with absolute certainty: they are. I know this because of what I read in Matthew's gospel. Jesus was sending his disciples out to harvest, to collect the fruit of good work and growth, literally and metaphorically. Everywhere they would go, they were to keep an eye out for the fruit of God's labor, for the harvest that grew from seeds planted in the ground and in the earth of their hearts, tended and watered by their Maker. Matthew said, "We are intimately linked to this harvest work. Anyone who accepts what you do accepts me, the one who sent you. Anyone who accepts what I do accepts my Creator, who sent me." We are connected, you and I, just like us and them. We are creators made in the image of our Creator. We are makers, growers, lovers, students, builders, scientists, mentors, teachers, workers, and problem solvers. We have gifts and skills and experiences that are meant to be used in all sorts of ways, in ways we haven't already identified, in ways that we can't imagine yet. We're disciples called to go out and harvest what is there for the offer. We just don't yet know what all the projects, tasks, missions, work, and mysteries to which God will call us might be. You might even find yourself doing something unexpected and new today. Now, this next part, though bonkers, is true. I'm afraid you're connected to everything humans have made, to toys and to playgrounds, books and to chairs, gardens and medicine, language and prayers, buildings and bicycles, buses, balloons, hammers, paintbrushes, tractors and spoons, but also to chicken pox, bullies and lies, to greed and pollution, trash piled high. You're not just connected to things that you like, things that are comfortable, easy, or nice. As human, you're part of the everythingness, and sometimes it's scary and a big, ugly mess. Election years can feel like a big, ugly mess, for sure. This year, things feel particularly difficult because even though we're all connected, we are aware of many tears and rifts in the fabric of our corporate lives. It's easy to get overwhelmed if you're looking at the whole country at once. But one way to approach that, which is the same way to approach anything really, is to look at it in manageable parts. If you want to change something that's broken, the best course of action is to break it down into things that are reasonable, things that are achievable. Jesus gave some important directions when he sent the disciples out to share good news, because even though the news was good, it would challenge the ways that most people had always seen the world. Things really haven't changed in 2,000 years. The news we are called to spread around is still good, but it's still countercultural. It still puts us right up against the powerful and the mighty, the sources of power and control. We are called to some challenging work, friends, like our spiritual ancestors before us. The road We travel right now can be difficult, but Jesus offered help. He broke it down into manageable parts when he said, don't begin by traveling to some far-off place to convert unbelievers, and don't try to be dramatic by tackling some public enemy. Go to the lost, confused people right here in your neighborhood. Tell them that the kingdom is here. Bring health to the sick, raise the dead. That's a metaphor, folks. It means offer light, choose life, and share it. Be bold and life-giving. He said, touch the untouchables, kick out the demons. You've been treated generously, so live generously. And he continued, don't think that you have to put on a big fundraising campaign before you start. You don't need lots of equipment because you are the equipment. All you need to keep going is 3 meals a day, so travel light. You and I, us and them, we can heal and mend, listen and learn, teach and build. Remember, you're connected to everything that's ever been made. Start small, right around you. You have no idea the impact your work, your prayers, your words, and your touch will have. You have already been touched by your very own collection of people throughout your whole life and their lifetimes before you. I read a poem recently by David Axelrod called Mending, and I will just share it with you because I think it is apt. Mending. You knelt over the rag rug my grandmother wove from the clothes she wore, heavy wool skirts and jackets she sewed decades ago. It wasn't a large rug you mended with a needle and thread, but you seemed small at the center of it, those thick, colorful braids of tartan, Donegal, houndstooth, and tweed, swirling all around you, opening a portal already 4 lifetimes deep. You laughed, looped another stitch, tied off the tailor's knot, and cut the thread with your teeth. We are all of us many generations and lifetimes deep, connected by unseen portals to all the people that came before us and all those who are yet to be. It's because of this fact, because of these layers and connections, that we can confront even the hardest things, like racism, environmental threats, homelessness, hunger, mental illness, and healthcare costs. You and I, us and them, we can explore and support, mend, and heal like our ancestors did before us and like our descendants to come will as well. I believe that we are called, and if I can borrow some words from a woman named Clarissa Estes, to mend the part of the world that's within our reach. Like the book I read to the children, as I said, I'm not intentionally telling you exactly how things are connected. That's up to each of us to explore and find out. I just know that it's true. And for my part, I'll keep doing things like staying up till 1:30 in the morning last Saturday night at the FaithWorks overnight in the Emerson Center, listening to the kids play hide and seek in the dark of that old house filled with the ghosts of some of the people who led this church on the way to where we are today. And I'll do it because the connections those kids are making right now, the friendships and laughter and scaring each other in the dark, are building a web that will support them for their whole life long. I just read an article in the New York Times this week called "How Monkeys Taught Me to Appreciate Teen Sleepovers." So it was apt. In a nutshell, it reminds us that friendship is a lifetime endeavor. That famous Harvard study that you may have heard about that's tracked people for a whole lifetime now says that the best predictor of how healthy and happy a person is at 80 is not wealth or professional success, but the strength of that person's relationships at 50. And many of those middle-aged relationships began much earlier, in high school youth groups, in school, at summer camp, wherever it may be. And so I hope you're inspired by the life of Jesus, who sought to connect people, one blobfish to another blobfish, to show us how caring for everything, people, animals, the natural world, the invisible bonds that tie us all together, is the very heart of God's desire for us. I hope that you will step up and out and follow his instructions to be alert. Don't be naive, he says. I'm sending you out for very hard work. People will impugn your motives. Others will smear your reputation just because you believe in me. Take the work ahead in small steps, in manageable parts, and expect that though some will hate you for the truth that you speak, for the words you share and the actions you take, don't quit. Don't cave in. It's all well worth it in the end, Jesus says. It's not success you're after in such times, but survival, and so be survivors. May we support and love one another here in our church, even as we walk together with a wider church and in the widest fellowship with other believers too, through troubled times, to navigate difficult issues and work together to tell people the good news that Jesus has already shared with us, that everything is connected. Thanks be to God. Amen.